Welcome in to 11 Personnel. Nick Roush here with Adam Luckett in the middle of Vanderbilt week. Kentucky is 6-3, looking to end the season on a high note with a 3-game homestand at Kroger Field to wrap up 2022. Before we dive into it, let me remind you that 11 Personnel is brought to you by our good friends at Port Royal Plants. They make the best plants in Port Royal, right here in St. Henry, or not St. Henry. St. Henry's where my wife's from. Henry County, Kentucky. It's a Kentucky proud product, full spectrum CBD that will get you right no matter what time of year it is. You can use some of their Epsom salts in your bath. I'm a big fan. I've preached the gospel of the balm in Luckett right now. I keep dealing with the thing where my toddler wants me to sleep in his twin bed with him, and every morning my back is just wrecked, and no amount of stretching can fix it. I got to have my Port Royal plant. So do yourself a favor, visit portroyalplants.com today. God, I sound so old when I talk about my back. That's such an old man thing to like. I was just watching Clark Lee's press conference, and like Clark Lee, he doesn't have old man back problems. Like that dude was a SEC fullback, and he's probably in better shape than any of our peers. I mean, that dude, he's probably in better shape than half of his football team because they're all sick.
Yeah, the little bit of a flu outbreak, it sounds like, similar to A&M. So we don't know much, but it might be a situation like last week for A&M where Saturday morning we find out that A&M's not going to have 25 players or so. And so we might have to write a post real quick, Nick, of all the players that might be out on Saturday morning for the Kroger Field press box. So that's something, we're going to be watching closely here moving forward.
I thought it was amusing that as he's getting asked about his team's flu symptoms, he's just hacking away in the middle of his press conference. Just like, well, he ain't lying about it. He's not lying about it at all. We might be hurting Saturday morning too. We got the
For other
Franklin,
reasons.
we got the Franklin wedding Friday afternoon, but hopefully the Cats won't be hurting against the Commodores. Kentucky's won 6 straight in the series. Each game by average 13.5 points. Look, last I saw the spread was 17. Did the AJ Swan injury, have we seen if that moved the line at all?
Yeah, I think it's been 17 and a half. I heard one book maybe took it down, but I think they're all up and running right now. So, 17 and a half. I don't think it changes much between Swan and Mike Wright. I think Swan's a better player, but Vanderbilt's still about the same as a team with whoever's back there. So, looking at 17 and a half point spread.
Yeah, these are stay away games, I think, for most smart Kentucky bettors, because there is we're mentioning right off the top all the uncertainty. I'm seeing Vanderbilt 18 right now on DraftKings, for what it's worth. Not only that uncertainty, although it does feel like if you're going, you don't have what's different about this game this year. You don't have not Middle Tennessee, but even a worse team than that. You don't have SoCon Saturday in your favor, right? Like this is your SoCon Saturday. This is a good opportunity to not only have a stat padding type performance, but also to kind of build some momentum before the inevitable buzzsaw comes to Kroger Field the following week, and you've got to go up against that Georgia defense. So that would be if you're considering playing it. Maybe you just look at the Kentucky team total over, but this would be an ideal time to break that 31-point ceiling that's held your offense down so far this season.
Yeah, I think to me, that's the big question of this game. Vanderbilt is bad on defense. Their pass defense is specifically bad.
Mm-hmm.
Every Power 5 passing offense has lit them up like a Christmas tree. And you go out and throw the ball Saturday.
I love that you're using the timely references too, because I saw some dude out there putting lights on the gutter this week. Shout out to Mark if you're watching. I know you're a big Cats fan, but yeah, it's we're getting that time of year, like it.
So that's just where we're at with this. So Kentucky needs to come out and have a good game on offense. Like I think you mentioned it on the Depth Chart podcast this week, Nick. Like just to put it bluntly, let's score more than 31 points. Like let's see that out of the offense. You haven't scored more than 31 in a game this year. Let's see you do it. To me, Vanderbilt played Northern Illinois and it was a close game. To me, this game kind of feels like the Northern Illinois game. It's a game Kentucky's going into expecting to win. They have a big game right around the corner. For Kentucky's offense, it's a pretty good matchup. They should kind of been able to score a lot. But defensively, just do you kind of let Vandy hang around? Do you let Vandy go on long drives? They have a good running back. Do you let them kind of just hang around in the football game? Or do you put your pedal or your foot on the gas and just take care of it and get the game over with early? I think Vanderbilt's probably going to have a similar plan to Northern Illinois. Why wouldn't you on defense? Why wouldn't you blitz this Kentucky front, right? To try to cause pressure on Levis. Then offensively, I think you're going to see Vandy with heavy run, QB run, try to milk the clock and play like Northern Illinois played. So to me, is Kentucky early able to distance themselves and turn this into what should be maybe an easy pull-away win late, or is it get in a low possession game and Kentucky's just kind of messing around with Vanderbilt and look up and they just win by 10. I think that's how I kind of see this game playing out. So I'm interested to see how Kentucky comes out and handles their business early, and getting a hot start is going to be everything. You start hot, they're going to be fine. If not, you're going to mess around and be kind of a close game in the third and fourth quarter.
The thing that worries me is the aggravating yards, particularly. You get yourself in a 3rd and 6 where the playbook's kind of open. Mike Wright wiggles free, gains 8 yards on a scramble. That's where the direction I can see this game going, and what's going to be the first cold football game of the year. It's barely going to be touching 40, even once the sun is at its tallest or its highest up in the middle of the day. I did, you mentioned Northern Illinois. They have not done well this year. I don't think Rocky Lombardi came back.
Came back for one game. They blew out. I can't remember the opponent they blew out. They blew out somebody, maybe Eastern Michigan on the road, and then he went back out the next game. So
yeah, you're right. It was Eastern Michigan. They're 2-7 so far. Maction has not been kind to the Huskies, although Maction was really good Tuesday night. I hope you're watching Luckett because Ball State had a 200-yard running back and they lost.
Beautiful.
They lost, and neither team scored more than 30 points. It's not like he had 200 rushing yards and it was a shootout, right? And both teams are scoring. No, their quarterback stinks. He had 90 passing yards. We got to, by the way, I know it's too late this year. We got a lot going on. Can we go ahead and
plan a Maction trip?
Yes. We need to pre-plan. My wife is from she's from that neck of the woods. She's in the middle. Muncie's a stone's throw away between Ball State, Bowling Green, Toledo. We those are very easy drives. We can make a day out of it. They got a Bob Ross museum in Muncie. Maybe we can do some painting early in the day. Like I'm a big Bob Ross guy, so I think Muncie has our name all over it. We can even drink out of ball jars. We can put Bud Lights in ball jars and really embrace the Cardinals, the best Cardinals in the Midwest, I've heard.
I'm for it. Can Eastern Michigan be the opponent?
Oh man, the factory. And Chris Creighton, they're back to another bowl game.
Mm-hmm.
Just chop it. I think I saw so he's got 4 bowl games, and they had 1 6-win season in the previous 30 years before he got there.
Yeah, build him a statue up there in Ypsilanti.
Oh man, Ypsilanti. The Maction's good right now. It was a great election night distraction, but I'm I remember you talking about the when little baby Baker, you would do kind of some posts at night before doing the nightly feeding. That's where I'm at right now, and the Maction is just perfect. Like, look up, there's a play. I'm kind of writing a little bit. All right, look back down, and then kind of warm the bottle up as the fourth quarter's winding down. So absolutely. Great for new parenting.
And something to keep an eye on here, Nick. South Florida job just open. Dabo's coaching tree is not doing too well. Jeff Scott was an awful tenure there in Tampa.
4 wins in 2.5 seasons.
Toledo head coach Jason Candle is kind of a popular name surrounding that opening.
Mm-hmm.
If he went there, it might be an opportunity maybe Vince looks into. Maybe tries to throw his hat in that ring. Toledo's a really good job in the MAC. If he was ever going to be a head coach, it would be kind of a job like that. He played at Toledo, right?
Yeah, he coached there.
Yeah, so I could see
Yeah.
just keep an eye on that if that job opens.
I mean, I don't know how much Vince wants to be a head coach. I don't think he's going to get paid more as Toledo's head coach than he's getting paid right now.
No, he'd definitely have to take a pay cut more than likely.
Yeah. You know what? I've heard a different name, though, not Jason Candle. The athletic director was asked if he'd hire John Gruden before even making an opening statement in that press conference.
Yeah, it's just beautiful.
It's
going to be a wild. Auburn's open, so things are going to get really crazy. And so it's going to be a fun next few weeks. No, I think I've been telling people this, but like Nick, as soon as this season's over on November 26th, the next 3 weeks are just going to be balls to the wall. Like it's just going to be nuts, head on a swivel. Yep. We're not going to know what's going on. We're not going to wake up, not know what's going to hit us that day. But there's just going to be a lot going on. So people just need to mentally prepare themselves. It's going to be a wild roller coaster for 3 weeks. And so try not to overreact. Ride the 3 weeks out, and then we can react after. But it's going to be a wild run there once the season finishes up.
We're starting to see some of the early. I don't want like right now. All of the message board fodder over at On3 is all about when you're looking at this coaching search stuff. It's very normal. We're just kind of throwing stuff at the wall. You're getting funny stuff like why haven't we talked about Gus Malzahn on the Nebraska board, which really amused me. But we did get the John Cohen hire at Auburn. He left his alma mater at Mississippi State. He had his introductory press conference this week. He'll be hiring the new football coach. He pulled out a list of 58 things. He even had the piece of paper, right? It was like Coach O with his binders going to the interview, just like, these are all the boxes that we're going to check. It's going to be a thorough process. And I love all of the antics when it comes to that. But, amid all of the NIL talk, that's going to play a instrumental role not only in the recruiting of players but also in coaches and all of this. That's going to be huge, and we're going to hear the statements. They're not going to go out and say, I came here because I've got $20 million to buy myself a roster, but they are going to make the comments like Cohen made, where we're going to be at the forefront and we're going to jump in feet first, because his previous school, his alma mater, Mississippi State, that was not the case. At least in the last 24 hours, we hear that Kentucky is getting things moving in the right direction. And, I don't know how much of a role that will play in those 3 wild weeks like it. I'm more concerned about how it's going to play out over the next 3 years, because you can really fall far behind if you aren't moving in the right direction right now.
Yeah, just yesterday was election day. NIL is the hot button topic, right? In college football right now. And so it's how you handle that. It seems like, it's hard to say, right, Nick?
Yeah.
We just don't know we don't know anything.
We know
you need it. We know it's out there. We know it exists. But we're not seeing it. We're not seeing, it's like, how do you make hot dog, right? What goes in there? You're just not, you see, you need it, and it's needed to get players, and then you see the players on the field, but you don't know how you get there. And I think that's what Kentucky's trying to figure out, how they want to do it, how the athletic department wants to do it.
It reminds me of like when coaches can't comment on uncommitted players or unsigned players, and you're only kind of getting one side of the story. There is so much unknown out there. But admittedly, we aren't writing as many so-and-so inks this nil deal. I mean, we're 9 games into a 12-game season, but, it's not as common as it once was at the forefront. So there is a lot of mystery out there. I think it's worth noting that it's also not the end-all be-all. The 2 running back decommitments Kentucky's had in the last month are not because that has got nothing to do with NIL. Kentucky's recruiting struggles, that plays a role in it, but it's not the end all be all.
Yeah. Obviously, like there's been back in the summer, Kentucky was just unorganized with how they were handling all of that, and that in part led to I think a slow recruiting start in 2023. The class, Kentucky had other issues, saw heavy staff turnover, all of that. So all of that, all of that combined, the emergence of Cincinnati really hurt, right? Cincinnati went to the playoff, was selling that. Kentucky was having a hard time beating them for players. I mean, let's just put it bluntly. Cincinnati's got about like 6-7 players Kentucky wanted, and that's in their recruiting class right now. They just got beat on some guys. Now they beat them for Anthony Brown. Sounds like Cameron Calhoun's maybe a guy they might flip, which when that happens, that's going to be the ultimate recruiting story.
Yep.
Right?
I mean, man, you would talk about a roller coaster.
And so, like, there's a lot of things going on. And that's why I mentioned, like, it's going to be a roller coaster. There's a big off season. Kentucky's got a lot of stuff they need to figure out, like recruiting wise. I think they got staffing decisions they need to make.
Yeah.
Amar Stewart, notably, he's got that contract that like expires as soon as the season's over. I think.
Settle his is probably.
And Settle was probably one we need to look at.
Yeah, he only signed most of the citizens are on 2-year deals.
Right. We haven't heard of him getting an extension. So yeah, there
could be some more staff turnover. Right.
And let's just play that game. DL running back. Typically, if you look at coaching staffs, recruiters, those are two positions where maybe two of the best recruiters are on the staff.
Haven't been doing it.
Well, just moving forward, that's a big one. Oh, one guy's caught my eyes, Cadillac Williams.
Yeah.
At Auburn.
How you watching that game Saturday night?
Yeah.
How much fun was it watching him just run up and down the sidelines? Yeah. That was awesome. I was rooting for him hard.
Cadillac played for Eddie Grant at Auburn. I'm sorry if I'm getting ahead of myself, but that makes a lot of sense here.
It does.
And so
he's a good recruiter.
Now we need to see who Auburn hires and see how that works. But like that, to me, you make that happen no matter how it, like you got the relationship there. If he leaves Auburn, that seems like a good landing spot here for him. And then finding what do you want to do now? That's if Stoops decides to move on. But they're just they need staffing changes. We need to find out if Stoops is staying, right? There's scuttlebutt regarding that, and so we got to get through all of that, and then transfer portal on top of it, and recruiting on top of it. And then the bowl selection process on top of that, and then there's just a lot of stuff we're gonna have to get through here.
Yeah,
coming up soon, and so but mainly Kentucky NIL. My opinion on it was, in the short term, this might be sour grapes or might not feel very important. Long term, they need to have this process figured out, and they need to know what their plan is, and they all need to be on the same page, because at the end of the day, this is all about doing what your competitors are doing and doing it better than them, right? And so that's the bottom line. If your competitors are doing this to get players, you need to do it to get players, and you need to do it better than your competitors. I mean, that's at the end of the day, that's what this is about. And so figuring that out, I think, is important. Matt, obviously, on Wednesday kind of opened up on the situation, as is. Hopefully we'll have some more concrete information about what's going on next week. So, I think it's important that this is happening. At least something is happening, at least. I guess we'll find out more as we go on. But, it's an important issue. You got to have that stuff. You got to have your ducks in a row. You cannot not be organized. And that's, I think, my big issue with Kentucky. It just seemed like they're not organized, really, as an organization since NIL came, and then all the change on football. It's just been a lot of change. They just need to get on their foot on solid ground and figure out what direction they're going in.
Well, and my example was the old recruiting room, because that just is something tangible that you could see. You could see how far Kentucky was behind in their facilities. It was clear as day. And the biggest problem was that it takes so long to play catch up. I mean, it was 4 or 5 years before they got all the money raised, all the stuff built. And if you don't do anything, you can fall 4 or 5 years behind just like that.
Yeah, that's really what I meant, though, is you see the problem now. Fix it now. Don't
Yeah.
wait until you're way behind.
Exactly.
You're right behind the 8 ball.
And that's
let's
that's
fix
where
it.
I'm at.
Fix this now. Do not wait. Right. I'm right there with you.
Yeah. You did mention bowl games. I want to get to those bowl scenarios, but first, I want to remind you that this Saturday, Lextran is running shuttles back to Kroger Field for the Kentucky football game. Skip the traffic this fall. Catch the Lextran game day shuttles to Kroger Field. They're running through UK's campus, downtown Lexington. We'll take you straight to Kroger Field for only $1. Just bring exact change, your singles. Find more information, including pickup and drop-off locations at lextran.com. I know one of those locations is outside KS Bar and Grill. They also go through the Transit Center downtown. I know some people are using them to go to and from Keeneland. So visit lextran.com. Find your location today to get in and out for Kentucky football games, just like that, with our friends at Lextran. Luckett, I appreciated your bowl scenario post today because we see projections all the time, and you actually shared us how the sausage is made. And if Kentucky does what they should do, if they take care of business and things don't get too crazy, which, it's November, things can get wild in college football, but if things don't get too crazy, then we can be taking that Lextran shuttle down to Tampa.
Yeah, I would say, as we sit today, Wednesday, November 9th, heading into week 11, that Tampa's the favorite.
What percent chance are you going to put on it?
See, that's interesting because Kentucky's got to win out, right? So they got to, or not win out. So they got to win 2 of the games they're favored in. And so,
Vanderbilt and Louisville, which is in any other year, go ahead.
So Vanderbilt, they should win. Louisville's a little more close. I don't think they would win it 10 times if they play 10 times. But really, I don't know. I would say 50-50. How does that sound?
Oh, okay. I was going to be a little bit stronger with my take and say 60-40.
Yeah. They just a lot of things need to hold for them here, Nick. The one to really watch is LSU. They really need LSU to win out until the SEC championship game. If LSU does not win out, they play Arkansas this week. Then they play A&M last week, and I believe they have UAB at home. So they should be a big favorite in that game in the middle. But they got to go to A&M and Arkansas. Arkansas this Saturday. You really need them to win 2 road games where they're not going to be more than I guess they'll be like a 10-point favorite against A&M, but they're only laying a field goal against Arkansas.
Yeah.
This week.
Especially when you get the big win, you read your press clippings.
That is really the one to watch for because here's what's going to happen. Tennessee's either getting in the playoff or they're going to be in the New Year's Six. They're a double-digit favorite here on out. They should go 11-1. It'd be pretty shocking if they didn't go 11-1. Alabama Ole Miss winners getting into the New Year's Six. They're both going to be the favorite to win out after that. Ole Miss gets Mississippi State at home this year. So they're both, one of those is getting in the New Year's Six and the loser isn't. And so the loser of that game's going Citrus Bowl. But what could mess this up is LSU knocks people down a peg, right? And then you can maybe have a scenario where Alabama gets knocked down to the Outback Bowl or to the ReliaQuest Bowl. And then that would knock Kentucky out. So that's really the thing to watch here. It's LSU this weekend. Kentucky getting 8-4 and then watch LSU. As long as LSU finishes 9-3 and goes to the SEC championship, it should be fine. Now, I think they would still stay in that New Year's Six range with a 9-4 record, a loss to Georgia, or with the if they get to, they'd be 10-2. But if they lost, they would be like 9-4, 9-3, and that would just take them out. So I think they would still be in New Year's Six range at 10-3 with a loss to Georgia. But that's really who I'm going to be watching the most here. Kentucky obviously needs South Carolina to lose some games, but South Carolina is going to be a touchdown plus dog in their last 3 games. Tennessee at home, at Clemson, at Florida this Saturday. So that's probably going to happen. So Kentucky get 8-4. They got a great shot, but they need some help from LSU.
The uncertainty too after that is what's difficult because I don't think folks at Kentucky want to play at I don't think the administration wants a Nashville Bowl to compete with a UK U of L basketball game.
That's the easy answer, but they can't do it right because of the basketball game.
And also just you're competing against a lot when normally that Music City Bowl stands alone and is doing.
Well, typically you're on
a pretty big one.
You're on at the same time as the Sugar Bowl, but it's the game before the playoffs, so you're going to get eyes on that. That's like a good window to be in. But you can't do it this year because you play this. Your basketball team's playing Louisville at the same time. You just can't do it. The next best bowl game here is the Las Vegas Bowl, Nick.
Yeah.
It's that first Saturday of bowl season, primetime, 8 o'clock on ABC. You're going to be playing one of the best Pac-12 teams. And those Pac-12 teams are good. Like, you're probably going to see like a Utah or UCLA in that game.
Yeah.
It's going to be it could be a ranked game, potentially, if Kentucky's 8-4. But, Nick, the following Wednesday is signing day. I'm pretty sure you can host kids on visits that weekend. That weekend,
you can. Yes, that's correct.
So I don't see Kentucky signing up. Their coaches going to Vegas and wanting to work from a Vegas hotel room for recruiting. You know what I'm saying?
I can just imagine, like, Vince being at the blackjack table, saying hit while he's on the phone.
So I don't
like that.
Kentucky's going to have their pick from this group of 6. It's hard for me to see them picking Vegas. I know the SEC wants this to have a big game, but wants this to be a big bowl game. But get signing day up out of here, out of December. Or otherwise, that would be the easy pick. It would be, if you couldn't get Tampa, you would just go to Las Vegas. And after that, then things get a little hairy, right? They just went to the Gator Bowl a couple years ago. They try in these group of 6 for 3 years to keep a team out of that bowl game.
Right.
So they're going to try not to have Kentucky go back down to the Gator Bowl. That leaves the Texas Bowl and the Liberty Bowl. You're both playing Big 12 teams. So you would think Kentucky would go to Memphis just because it's a shorter drive, but I think the Texas Bowl is higher up in the pecking order.
Mm-hmm.
And so it might be a thing where the SEC wants to send a team to the Texas Bowl, and by default, Kentucky could end up in Houston on December 28th. So basically, it's a mess if they can't get to Tampa. And so they're going to have a hard decision to make. Do they want to play in a primetime spot with Vegas, but all those NSD complications?
Yeah.
Do they want to go to Houston, or can they go to Memphis, or can they sweet talk Jacksonville into maybe going there again? Or can they find a way to get to Tampa? I think finding a way to get to Tampa is what everybody would prefer over there. It's just getting there. So go Tigers. I mean, that's really all I can say at this point.
Go Tigers. That personal preference, I'm probably taking Vegas.
Yeah, I would love Vegas. That'd be awesome for us.
It'd be so much fun. And, selfishly, during the rush to early signing day, like, that's a blitz. Then you can kind of exhale, have Christmas, and then it's right to the bowl. It would be kind of nice to just get everything over with at signing day, and then you can kind of chill out Christmas week and just watch all the bowl games, right? Like, you don't have to, wouldn't have to be running around like the amount of. I mean, there was one year, I guess it would have been the Belk Bowl year, where I was leaving a practice listening to Leach call the basketball game. It was the one where Diallo dunked really hard on somebody from Louisville. But, like, stuff like that, where just selfishly having to maneuver through some of that is a real pain in the ass, for a lack of a better term. So,
and then what if they have a coaching search on top of this, right? Let's say Stoops does leave. I mean, like, if that happens, I think they're going to want to play in the Vegas Bowl.
Yeah, because you just want eyeballs.
Well, you can just get the season over as fast as possible, and you're just done.
Yeah.
But if not, they're probably going to want to focus on recruiting, and then we could be going to Houston like the day after Christmas. And then that game's on the 28th.
Houston sucks. Sorry if you're living in Houston, but
and it's in that cavernous dome.
Yeah, that would just be. I would like going to Allegiant Stadium. That'd be awesome. Raiders tickets too have been crazy, and the Las Vegas Bowl might actually be one of the better attended bowl games.
We could catch a hockey game while we're out there.
Oh,
you go see the Golden Knights.
Yeah,
it's Vegas. Vegas is awesome.
Never been to Vegas. Never been to a hockey game. So we're gonna those boxes.
There you go. We can knock them both out. Vegas would be really, really fun. Yeah, you would have a ball. Like, It's right up your alley. I mean, gambling and alcohol. I mean, there you couldn't ask for anything more. It is
Oh, I would
Roush
want it
Haven.
in like all of the. I love like
We
one
could
of my
spend a day
favorite
at the sports book. It would be awesome.
the people that do the road shows. What do you call them? The street performers. Like I love that in New Orleans. All of those people who do the dumb little like. Give me all of that. Like we'll go to one of those stupid shows. The dumber, the hokier, the better. I think I would also like the
Taco
old
Bell
school.
Cantina at night, 2 a.m. at night. Shut it
What,
down.
what do they call the old area? It's like the old Vegas. That's just like
Yeah.
really junky. Like that just screams
The old
Dixie Highway Roush, right?
I think the old Golden Nuggets over there. We did that
Yeah.
last time we were there. It spent the day out there. Old Vegas was fun.
The seedy parts of town, like seedy Roush over here. Like that's right on my alley.
Vegas is and if you golf, if you're into golf at all, there's some courses out there you could probably play.
Don't they have one that's like a zoo where there's like wild animals on it? Maybe they got
I'm
rid
sure
of that after Siegfried and Roy, but
it's Vegas. They got about everything out there.
That'd be a fun introduction, but we won't find out. Like you said, it's going to be another 3 weeks. It's going to be chaotic once we get to. Because the worst part of it, Luckett, is that the regular season ends, and then you still got to wait a week for the conference championship stuff.
Yeah, and the thing about the Vegas Bowl stinks is like fans would only have like 2 weeks to prepare to get out there.
And what's the Kentucky basketball schedule like? In Gonzaga, like the next day?
That's after the Georgia game.
Okay. That's the one that's sneaking up on me.
No, there will be a basketball game that Saturday. Like you'll have a Kentucky double dip basketball.
It's UCLA.
Yeah. What's that game at like 5:30? You would go right into the football game. I think the football game's at 8 Eastern time.
Yeah, that could be an all-time day.
Yeah,
you could play UCLA in football and basketball the same day.
Yeah, absolutely.
That could be crazy. Oh man.
And you could do the double dip. You can go to the book and you can bet both the Cats. You go get Cats money line football probably, and then Cats.
Yeah.
Laying points against UCLA, wherever that game's at. I'm not sure. And UCLA's good in basketball, I think, this year.
It's in New York, so it would be on either side of the country. That would also be a horrific matchup for Kentucky football. Like, I want no part of DTR Charbonnet. I mean, as good as Kentucky's defense has been,
UCLA's defense stinks, though, and so that would help some. But yeah, you're right. But who knows with opt-outs and stuff where we'll sit.
That's true. I was watching Van Pelt, and they had a baseball stat where it was like they were doing the rankings. First time 4 Pac-12 teams have been in the top 13 since 2016 or something like that. And I'm like, man, that is such a baseball. Hey, let's put as many guardrails up around this stat as possible just to say that the Pac-12 is in fact good. I know we have ranking takes. My favorite are Wes Ruckers. That guy is a lunatic. My God, there's nobody drunker on Tennessee Kool-Aid than that guy. But I love the rankings, super duper hot takes. Just glad Kentucky's back in them. And I forgot the direction I was going to go with that, other than like. I had a take there, and it just completely escaped my mind.
Well,
I don't know what
Kentucky's going to be ranked when number 1 team comes to town, as long as Georgia takes care of business.
Yeah, that's good. And then it's also good 3 times in 5 years you're ranked in the top 25 in November, because that's where this is important, right? These are November rankings. These are end of the season. So I think that's a good statement on where you are as a program, that you're a top 25 team more times than not in November, right? Like, what more can you ask for?
They're going to play on another stage next week, Nick. CBS, SEC. It wasn't as big as we were hoping. Game day's not coming. Game day's probably going to go out to, I think, UCLA, USC's that day, so that'll be game day.
Great uniform game.
But it's still going to be one of the better games of the day. You got number 1, 10-0 Georgia at your house, with a chance to take a swing at them. We've seen Kentucky in these big stage games not necessarily play all that well, make self-inflicted mistakes. Even back to last year, the fumble, Kentucky doesn't recover it. They had a chance to really hang into that game for a while, and they don't recover that fumble. That kind of puts them in a hole. Wanda Robinson drops a touchdown, and then of course Tennessee this year, and of course Ole Miss. Even I would say they kind of pissed the game away. This is another chance here to on a stage play well. Let's see if you can go and play well. I think that would go a long way if they could go and do that. And they've played in a lot of big games this year. This is the first one at home, Nick.
Yeah,
they haven't had a big game at home like this since I would say Florida LSU last year. And that on a national scene that wasn't the same as this one. So let's see if they can go and put a good performance together at home. And so, I'm not expecting Kentucky to win that game. Georgia's a terrible matchup because a lot of ways Kentucky is mini Georgia, and so you're trying to beat Georgia at what they do best, which is not what I would advise. But then again, no one can really beat Georgia right now. So you want to see them really hang around and put pressure on Georgia in the second half. That's really what you're asking for going into that game, and then win the two sandwich games around that spot. Which gets me to a point I want to make, Nick. How are we feeling about the offense after Missouri game? We hammered them. Rightfully, I think they got hammered after the Tennessee game. So how are we feeling right now?
Before I get into it, I just want to make the point that, wow, it's crazy what happens when Tennessee's offense has to play against man coverage. Big surprise. When you have athletes, good on good. Somebody asked, well, why don't they run that offense in the pros? And it's because the pros are good enough to guard you.
Well, Georgia's got big number 88 in there, and he's healthy.
Mm-hmm. That helps too.
And he is just a game changer because they can't block him. So he's just wrecking shop on the interior. And that's really the difference with that. To beat that, when that Baylor Art Briles offense, which by the way, some people try to tell me that it wasn't the Art Briles offense. Okay. To beat that, you just gotta we got war daddies up front, right? And that was the thing about Alabama I was disappointed in, is that they didn't really make an impact. And I thought Will Anderson would kind of wreck shop, and he really didn't that game.
Well, we saw what Josh Allen did to this offense when Heupel was at Missouri in 2018. He ate Drew Lock's lunch every single down, and they went 3 and out 27 times in a row.
Yeah. So you have to match up on the outside. They're going to get one-on-ones. You just had if he makes throws, he makes throws. But he missed some throws in that game, and they just wrecked shop inside, stopped the run, and got pressure up the middle on Hooker. You just have to be – that's really kind of the way to beat that. But it's a personnel thing. Not a lot of people have that.
Right.
And so for Kentucky, you're hoping maybe 2 years, junior Deion Walker can maybe become something like that, where he can just wreck shop there in the interior. But those are the kind of guys you have to have. And Georgia has them, and not many people have them. So Tennessee's going to score on a lot of people. But I'm interested to see Tennessee this weekend because Missouri's got dudes on the interior.
Yeah, that's true.
Missouri they'll play man coverage on the outside. They're comfortable in bump and run. I'm interested to see how they match up. Now it's not going to. Now the problem is you need complementary football from your offense.
And
the best thing Tennessee does is get offenses behind the chains, and then they get their offensive field position advantage. They've done it all year.
Yeah.
And so Missouri, can they keep their defense? If they can put their defense in good spots, I think they got a chance to hang around in that game. But as we saw against Kentucky, Tennessee puts a lot of pressure on you on both sides because of that.
So this is a good way to get back to what you said about the offense. And I understand giving Drink a vote of confidence, even though he let that some of these losses this year for them are inexcusable. I understand giving him a vote of confidence now. $6 million is still a lot to be paying some dude to be 500. So
they pay him.
I know that's kind of the going rate to compete right now, but that feels like a lot.
Rewind to when they hired him, Nick. I don't know if you remember this.
Yeah, Barry Odom was doing just what he's been doing, right?
Yeah, Barry Odom was 500. They fired him, okay, and their AD, who's been let go since then, came up with a list, turned it into the board of trustees, and they were like, "Hell no,
this ain't good enough.
Go out and find somebody else." I think Blake Anderson was on that list, who's now the head coach at Utah State. I'm trying to think, I can't remember off the top of my head who else was on that list, but it was a very really, this is you hired Barry Odom to do this.
Yeah.
So they go out and they hire Drinkowitz, who was 1 year at App State. He was making $820,000, and they paid him $4 million 4 or 5 years. And everybody was like, "Why did they pay them this much? You don't need to pay him $4 million."
Right.
So they did that, and then they did it. I think Jimmy Sexton's his agent, so props to him doing his job, getting Drinkowitz $6 million. I think, like when the extension came, I was talking to people in the press box. I was like, yeah, that makes sense because like he's doing a good job recruiting, and so it's kind of like, all right, here's a 2-year extension. We believe in you. Point 2, but we still need to see more.
Right.
I did not see the $6 million coming. That was a shocker. Especially when you look at Drinkowitz. What is he? He's responsible for the whole team, but his expertise is offense and quarterback, right?
Exactly, and that's where they've been. Their
offense stinks, and they botched the QB stuff in the offseason.
Yeah, so bad.
Let Bazelak walk. He goes to the portal. They swing and miss on Jaden Daniels. They swing and miss on JT Daniels. And Gary Bohannon, who transferred from Baylor, picked USF over them. So they had to start Brady Cook by default when they really didn't want to. And now you look up, they've got a borderline top 10 defense. If they had a top 50 offense, they would be pushing for the Outback Bowl 9-win season.
Have you seen Kentucky's defensive SP Plus ranking?
Yeah.
7th.
Well, that just gets me back to
gosh.
Like
meat
on the bone. Like they really
so
they really missed an opportunity here. Like I don't know what else to say, but they really, really missed a big chance this season because of how good that defense has been with injuries.
Yeah, and without producing a ton of havoc stats.
And with their schedule.
I mean, yeah.
A top 25 offense with this defense is really doing some damage. I mean, they are 8-1 right now, Nick, I think, with the top 25 offense. The only loss would have been to Tennessee.
But to this offense's credit, they started putting points on the board. They finished drives. They had playmakers make plays. They even had plays called back. Touchdown plays called back, and they still found a way into the end zone. They overcame some adversity, despite being pretty banged up. And another day where Will Levis was on his back as many times as he threw incomplete passes. Like but I believe that was correct. 6 sacks and 6 incompletions. So,
yeah,
it was going in the right direction. I just more first down passes and more. For me, a lot of it is the lack of complementary football. The quick 3 and outs are so brutal. I mean, if you do have one of those successful runs,
2 chances to run out the clock.
Yeah, I
2.
mean,
get a first down. You got to get a first down.
6 yards. Just keep the chains moving. Like it's not. It can't be that difficult.
Yeah, I think the biggest issue I had in that game. Now, number one, I thought the start was really good. I thought they came out with a good plan. At the beginning, and really almost had 2 touchdowns there, right? They put 2 scoring possessions together. They just missed that field goal. So that was disappointing, but I thought it was a good start, which is what we wanted to see.
Right.
Will Levis made plays in the red zone on 3rd down. Every touchdown had a big 3rd down completion from him. The one the key first drive. The one that hits Tavian Robinson for 15 yards on a 3rd and 8, I believe, before Rodriguez runs it in. And then the last one, obviously, key again. All of those were on 3rd and obvious passing downs. And so I thought that was good. Good start. That was what you need Levis to do. You want Will Levis to look like Will Levis. That was one of my checkpoints. He looked like Will Levis in that game for the most part. But the in-between was just not good, Nick. It was... I get wanting to... the best thing they do, you want to give the ball to Chris Rodriguez, right?
Mm-hmm.
But they were just getting behind the chains way too much. Way too much. And then once it's 2nd and 10, they were toast on offense. Because it's obvious passing downs, 2 downs in a row. And so, for Kentucky to look like we want them to look like, which is kind of like that Mississippi State game, they got to get back to having their rushing efficiency. They need Chris Rodriguez to keep them ahead of the chains. If you look at his success rate numbers last 2 weeks, they're not very good. And it's a lot of negative plays, Nick. And that's something we've never seen from Rodriguez. So what does that tell me? It tells me the offensive line is just not doing its job. If he's getting hit and having a bunch of no gains and tackles for loss, I believe his stuff rate is right at 22% the last 2 games, which is way, 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 way higher than his career averages. So
than it should ever be. Right.
So if they're not, so you gotta balance it out a little bit. If you're playing against Georgia, because Vanderbilt, I think they're going to be able to run the ball on early downs. They're going to stay ahead of the chains. But against Georgia, they're going to stuff the run.
It took 29 carries for Chris to get 112. That's a lot.
And he had a few chunk runs in there. Like he had a run of 25. I think he had a run of 15. And so I take out the chunk runs, and it was a lot of carries for little yardage because Missouri was just beating them up at the line of their offensive line up at the line of scrimmage.
But we can commend Rich for making some efforts to make positive change. He went up to the booth. He also ran Will Levis out of the shotgun a lot more. I thought that was moving in the right direction. It is worth noting, Luckett, because I was scrolling through the game notes, looking at some numbers. Chris has that rushing record. It's going to be tough, but he's a lot closer than I thought he could get. He had four game suspension, and he didn't get a ton against Ole Miss, right? He was still kicking the rest up. So you're essentially taking away 5 games, only getting like a half season of work, and he's right now needs to average 140 yards over the last 4 games. Like that's very doable. Now,
we'll know after Saturday if he has a chance.
Yes.
Like he'd have to rip off, I think, over 200 Saturday or right around it.
Right.
And then you could talk yourself into it if you get a bad run defense in the bowl game.
Right. Now, Illinois is one of those potential opponents. You ain't doing that against Illinois. Their rush defense is better than Georgia's. But, I mean, he's passing Mo Williams. He's passing Mo Williams on Saturday and only needs 22 yards, and it'll be Sonny Collins and Benny Snell are the only 2 ahead of him. So,
Mo, I got confused. Yeah,
got right. People mixed up. Yeah. But it's impressive what Chris has done in a limited amount of time, despite the lack of efficiency from and also just the poor offensive line play. So that's within reach. We also are most likely going to see DeAndre Square surpass a career milestone against Vanderbilt. He's got 299 career tackles, 1 away from the 300 tackle club. There's only been 20 in UK football history, 4 since the turn of the century in 2000, and Mike Edwards is the only Wildcat to do it under Mark Stoops. That's on the line. They're expecting Square to be back after he missed that Missouri game. I got a feeling he won't play it a ton still. Like, you don't need him to play a ton. But nevertheless, because Trevin Wallace was freaking awesome against Missouri, right? Like, that guy.
I mean, just shout out to the D. I mean, the defense is just really good. They've got depth, guys coming off the bench playing well. It's going to be fun talking about them this offseason, what they could potentially put together on that side of the ball.
Because Square and Asian, and of course Jacquez Jones, they're the only big seniors, but you played most of the season without Jones, who also stuck on 299 tackles.
You've played without all of them and have held up in certain areas. And you're going to get Jalen Geiger back next year, and you can just move him back to his original position, which was that strong safety spot with Asian.
I love it, play free. Yeah.
So you're just, and then you have Zion Childress as a pretty good third safety. Yeah. You're going to have to find a spot for Alex Safari. Andrew Phillips looks like a guy who's going to be able to be a starter for you. Maybe slide it back out the corner, which opens a spot for Vito Tisdale to come back and play nickel. You're losing Square and Jones, but De'Eric Jackson and Trevin Wallace are getting big reps this season. They're going to be ready to be starters. I mean, there's just – and the whole D-line should be back.
Mm-hmm.
Dudes. See a start from a step forward from Deion Walker. Get Ox on the training table. And, you're going to be in a good spot next year.
Get JJ to come back and
get JJ to come back
explosive.
and then Keaton Wade steps in for Jordan Wright. There's a lot to like about this defense, man.
It really is. It really is. And that's where they've recruited their best there in receiver, right? With Stewart and Jacoby Albert didn't play at all this year. There's a lot of they're doing well out there. This is also going to be a low key, pretty big recruiting weekend. Luckett. You got the big Florida commit. That's a 4-star defensive lineman, Will Norman, who's officially visiting.
Kid, I'm watching. Go ahead.
Is the Corrence kid? Is he officially visiting? Did I see that, or is it just unofficial? The Trey Corrence.
Yeah, I think it's an official. I'm not sure. But Nick, quietly, we got Brad White working in the shadows here, man.
Yeah.
Brandon Hillman, top 500 prospect from Virginia. Portsmouth, Virginia. I'm assuming they're recruiting him as a defensive back. I do not know. No, he took an official to Notre Dame in October. Virginia Tech's been trying very hard to get him. Kentucky quietly got him on an OV. He's announcing sometime in December on his birthday. That's somebody to watch out for. Top 500 prospect. It could be another quality defensive prospect they're getting there with Jeremiah Anglin, with you said Stewart, and with the linebacker out of Georgia names escaped Grant Godfrey.
Yeah.
And so I think they're doing some good things there on defense. And Brad White, he split with Collins there, kind of for Godfrey. I think the Jamin Davis sell was big. If you go back and read our report on his commitment, White was a big part of it, and then he could get a big one right here. And last year he got Fearbury kind of out of nowhere, out of Pittsburgh. He's doing some good things recruiting, so that's something to watch out. The one thing I'll be watching kind of closely this weekend, and obviously, Cornish is the big one, the running back. He just got another offer from Louisville, Nick.
Yeah.
And so he's blowing up a little bit. Power back, 5'10", 215, 220 pounds. It's kind of what they need.
Bowling ball.
Yeah.
All right, Luckett, to start to put a bow on this podcast, we appreciate y'all following along. KSR YouTube channel, Apple, wherever you check out your podcast. To get back to the Vanderbilt game, we've seen these kind of ugly Vanderbilt games plenty of times. They hang around more than they should. It's not really the cleanest game. If we know anything about this Kentucky football game, clean football is just not in their vocabulary. So it's going to be ugly. It's going to be cold, gray skies, coldest game of the year, 40 degrees. What are some of those I don't want to say benchmarks for success, but what's something that will make you happy leaving Kroger Field on Saturday, in addition to just another Kentucky win, a 7th for the season?
Fast start, first quarter start. If they start fast, they're going to be in great shape. If they don't, it's going to be a slog. Then just keeping the quarterback clean. I think what we're going to see from Kentucky is they're just going to try to run it like they did against Mississippi State, get ahead of the chains, stay out of predictable passing downs. If they do that, I think they can keep Levis clean, and then they can be precise about when they want to go to the air and pick apart what's been a bad secondary and a very bad pass defense this season. And so I think that's really what they're looking for. To me, it's fast start, keeping Levis clean, in big gains through the air, because you should be able to move the ball at will kind of against this defense. And then for them to just be Kentucky on defense, do not have kind of a fast start again on that side of the ball. Like we saw in the Northern Illinois game, they came out and gave up that big long drive to start the game. Vandy's going to want to milk clock and keep Kentucky's offense off the field and just try to hang around it for as long as possible. And so don't let them do that. Get them in a hole early, and then I think everybody thinks it's going to be fine. But if you don't, it's going to be a little iffy there, I think, in the fourth quarter.
For me, it's the latter part in particular, too. Just seeing some of those receivers make some big plays, some big highlight plays. It's just fun. And any sort of way we can inject some excitement into Kroger Field Saturday, I'm here for it. Big play, Barryon, Danke, whoever, wherever. Let's make it happen.
Yeah. How about snaps over the head? How about they made all the extra points.
Now look at beggars can't be choosers.
So how about that? Let's just focus there. No special teams catastrophe. How about no flags on special teams? Like they still had, we didn't talk about it, but they had 2 flags on returns.
Yeah, you're asking too much. You're asking for too much. This team is just infuriatingly, and that's really my biggest bone to pick with Mark Stoops. And he doesn't have a straight answer for me. It's a lot of hemming and hawing around. I don't know what it is. Is it?
Well, there's Dean Hood scuttlebutt because Murray State's not having a great year.
It's the overall lack of discipline that's really frustrating to me. And some of that is just players just in between the ears, right? And I don't think he's going to throw them under the bus publicly. I wonder what, if I gave Stoops truth serum, what it would be. Because in theory, they've got the older leadership. I just don't know the dumb plays, the silly, undisciplined stuff.
To me, it's just, but like that the last word you said. right? It's offense.
Oh, I
And
would
special.
say in all phases, but yeah,
Okay.
offense, special teams, defense is few and far between. But they still had 2 offsides penalties on 3rd and 20, like make it
But
3rd and 10.
it's 3rd and 20, not 3rd and 7, right? Like they still keeps them in long. Like you're willing. I'm not going to get mad at the defensive because guess what? They still got off the field there.
They did. True. That's true.
To me, like it's number one. It's the offense. How many times do we have to see key procedural penalties in huge critical spots? Another 3rd and medium turns into 3rd and long on the dang key touchdown because you jump a false start.
Yeah.
And then you allow Missouri to get in their best pressure package because of that. Can't have it.
Yep.
Saw it at the end of the first half against Tennessee, the Ole Miss game, obviously. That keeps happening. And then special teams, like those 2 phases have just let the team down, man. They just really have. So that to me, like you gotta get rid of that. Like I don't know, like it might be a game. Let's see what DeAndre Buford has for a couple series at right tackle.
Yeah.
Let's put him up, see if he can hold up in pass pro because
You got to find out, right?
well, it will if it's as bad as it was the last 2 weeks.
Can you get much?
You gotta try something else.
Yeah.
And I thought Buford did some good things in the run game earlier in the season to get specifically against Mississippi State. So maybe he's somebody that gets a look this week. But yeah, just sloppy, and that specifically on those 2 ends, it's just been sloppy. To me, with the offense, it's just those false starts. They come at like
the worst time.
Awful times.
So
like,
bad.
What? And they've been drive killers usually. Kentucky was able to play through it, but they've been drive killers. In a game like this, where you got a chance to maybe boat race some team, don't have drive killers. Just handle your business early. Like I think everybody would breathe a lot easier if Kentucky comes out and they just get out to 28-3 lead.
Most dangerous lead in football.
Yeah, that's the Falcons.
That's the Atlanta Falcons.
But like you know what I'm saying, just it'd be nice to boat race someone.
Would be. It would be. And you ain't going to get that the next week with Georgia looming. So it'll be a much different podcast when we're discussing the Cats this time next week. But it has been a pleasure, as always, Adam Luckett. Appreciate y'all joining us on the KSR YouTube channel. Appreciate Port Royal Plants for sponsoring 11 Personnel. And hopefully we'll be having a lot of fun Saturday at Kroger Field. So until next time, for Adam Luckett, I'm Nick Roush. So long. Go Cats and go Kroger.